Hi, and I'm Dr. Catherine Walsh, and I'm here to tell you about the course that I have constructed and have taught for the last 10 years in the graduate program of social work here at Westfield State University. It is called Grief and Loss. And I think it's especially relevant today because, as this quote says, we are all mourners now, trying to guide one another as we navigate our way forward and strive to make a better world out of tragedy. And she is, of course, referring to the worldwide pandemic that we have been dealing with for the last 2 years. Although I've been teaching the course for 10 years, the course has been evolving and has had to be significantly adapted in the last 2 years in response to the pandemic. It is an asynchronous online course, which I think is the perfect format for this course. One faculty member said to me, "How can you teach this content asynchronously online when it's so emotional?" And that's exactly the reason that the online asynchronous format is so effective for this course. It gives students an opportunity to really integrate the content of the course that they are learning, and the content does address many emotional topics that students may find themselves activated by. So the online format allows them to integrate the material and then participate in the online discussion groups after they've had some time to process that. I'm an oncology social worker. I've been in practice for 43 years, and I initially designed the course to be a course on tangible loss or loss as a result of death. However, in teaching social work, many of our students come from very diverse backgrounds and situations. Some of them have been refugees. Some of them have experienced tremendous loss in their own communities of color. And many of them work for agencies where symbolic losses are a daily occurrence. Symbolic losses are those losses that are not due to death, but do result in the loss of a relationship. And children, for example, placed in foster care have lost their biological families and have grief reactions in response to that. Perhaps one of the most powerful experiences I've had is learning from students that before taking this course, if they were removing a child from their home and had them crying in the back seat, they would say, "Don't cry, everything's going to be fine." And now, after taking the course, are able to say to the child, "It's understandable that you would be crying, and I'm very sorry." And just responding in a very different way, informed by the lens of grief. The course has a unique aspect in being designed to address these multiple kinds of losses, to help students who are in multiple settings: elementary schools, hospitals, hospices, correctional facilities, mental health agencies with outpatient clinics, residential homes for adolescents who are at risk. So you can imagine that the types of grief and loss that they encounter is very complex, and also there are a multitude of causes and effects. So in initially trying to find a textbook to address these symbolic and tangible losses, and with examples from multiple practice settings, I really had a difficult time. So I created the first edition of the text, which is entitled Grief and Loss: Theories and Skills for the Helping Professions. And what has been really wonderful is that I have been able to collect examples from my students with their copyright permission to inform the text and be included in the text. And it has served multiple purposes. It gives new readers the opportunity to hear from previous students how they've applied the content and how they've made meaning of their own professional and personal loss experiences. It also provides them with a publication and, I hope, inspiration to continue writing and contributing to our professional literature. So the course, as you will see when you go through it, addresses a number of different topics, and the beauty of teaching it through the online format, of course, is that resources connected to grief and loss are readily available through the embedded links. The first week, for example, students watch a video by Dr. Paul Kalanithi, who was the author of When Breath Becomes Air, about his own experience being diagnosed with terminal cancer and the multiple losses that he encountered along the way. And in week 2, they can read the New York Times editorial written by Paul Kalanithi's wife after his death about her own grief as a young widow and the grief of their child. So it also provides opportunities for students to research credible web resources, and they do this as an assignment in their weekly journal assignments. For our developmental stages in the lifespan, they are required to research credible websites that would be useful to families, for example, who are helping children with grief. And in our older adults, they have an experiential activity to interview an older adult about their loss experiences using the empathic listening skills that we teach in the course. The 2-week online discussions are based on what students tell me in our introductory discussion about their own loss experiences. So I'm able to group students with common experiences together, and they participate for the entire semester in a group that addresses their, that gives them an opportunity to discuss the topics in the course, but also provide support to one another. So for example, this year I've had more students than ever before who've experienced personal losses in their own lives, deaths of despair like suicide and overdoses due to the pandemic, as well as deaths due to COVID-19 and the normal course of life events like accidents and illnesses. So students in that group, I grouped them together, were able to serve and sort of experience what it is like to be in a group, a small group of peers who understand the life experiences you've had. And this is really helpful because in social work, support groups are a very key intervention that we offer to clients who've experienced loss. So again, in this way, the course is experiential in addition to providing content that is very relevant. So I'm hoping that you will enjoy looking at the course and the course content, and know that for me, it has been a tremendous privilege to teach this course. I've used every one of my clinical skills, of course, because so much does get activated in students when they're discussing and learning about these topics. But it has been very rewarding to know that I am helping to equip mental health professionals who will be going out into the practice world and serving a desperate need in the community in our current society. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the course.